Okay. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to go back into our regular session. We're going to begin with the auditor's office. Mr. Duenkel, are you available?
Yes, I am. Good morning, commissioners. Here, let me get the video going here. Happy Monday. Thank you guys for the time on today's agenda to review with you elements of a plan I've pulled together to fine-tune the auditor's office with a minor reorganization. And there's 4 elements to that reorganization, 3 of which I'm looking for Board of Commissioners concurrence on today because they'll require support or backup with budget amendments. And let me show you my screen here. I'll share. You guys see that okay?
Yes.
So we've got 4 elements. One, we're asking for the addition of 1 elections technician full-time to the team. We're going to be looking for adding some additional hours for extra help, our part-time workers for the August primary and November general election. And then I'm asking again to reinstate the chief deputy auditor role, again with no backfill as we talked about a few months ago. And then just as a heads up or awareness, there's also work that we're doing to revise the position descriptions for the licensing and recording team to account for the fact that we're integrating passport service into that department. But we'll save that topic for another time. I just wanted to include this again for heads up and awareness, so you know it's part of a bigger reorganization plan. So back to today's request. So in the last legislative session, there were some laws passed that are adding to the election team statement of work. And I've got Marie here. She can help comment on some of this if she wants to jump in. But we've got automatic voter registration, which means starting in July, anytime someone has an interaction with the Department of Licensing and or revises any information pertaining to their voter registration, we're going to get an automatic notification at the auditor's office that will require a 5 business day turnaround to that voter to confirm whether or not they really want to be registered or not. And that's going to entail the development of an information packet that we'll send to the voter, plus individual follow-up on each of the potential voters' responses. And we're going to be having to deal with this on top of all of the baseline voter registration activity that the team currently does. And so we want to bring the part of what we want to have the new person do is really focus on this piece of the new statement of work and help us understand it in terms of the resources required for go forward budgeting purposes, and also understand how we can best integrate it into the overall elections operation. The other thing is we've got revised requirements for signature verification. Going forward, we're going to be required to have 2 people to agree anytime a ballot is rejected for signature mismatch. And that's going to put some additional delay into that process and some additional resources required, experienced resources that can provide that kind of second set of eyes oversight on a rejection decision. Reed, do you want to add to any of that?
Just looking for my mute button, sorry. I mean, this pretty much hits it. I just know that with the automatic voter registration, it's not limited to just DOL. There may be other entities through like DSHS and some of the other entities that people voter registration information is submitted to us through. So that is in addition to DOL. So that number is going to be a lot.
That's a good point. So the starting point is with Department of Licensing. The intent of the legislation, and it gives the governor the authority to add agencies to the list of citizen interactions where this type of automatic triggering of the voter registration process will be set in motion. So it's probably only going to get bigger with time. So I'm glad you brought that up, Marie.
I got a question on that one before we leave it, because
yes, sir.
Do we have any idea at all what kind of number we're talking about on this. I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm thinking to myself, am I talking 500 touches a year or 3,000 to
We don't
8,000
know.
touches a year?
That's part of what
It,
we're gonna start learning in starting in July. We
well,
really
think
don't have
about everybody that renews their driver's license
Mhm.
every year. That's going to hit us. Then every resident of Mason County, it's going to hit us because it's automatically voter registration if they're eligible.
And you have no idea how many that is a year for the new licenses stuff. But we can probably guess we're talking at least 3,000 hits then, touches.
Yes, at minimum for sure. I mean,
Well, that's a lot for adding on to your workload. How
That's
many
a lot.
people you have to touch. Go ahead. Sorry, I just was trying to figure that out. Go
No,
ahead.
I'm glad you asked that question, but to your point, Randy, it is really an unknown for us, and that's why we want to have somebody dedicated to it and focused on it and do a really thorough job of taking notes and collecting data on how much time and how many people and how many packets and all of that stuff, right? So we have good statistics going forward. So again, that's on top of our baseline or our existing statement of work. There's other parts of our statement of work. You guys know our elections team is amazing. They're fantastic, but they're small and they're tapped out. And so there's things that we also have on our plate that are statutory requirements that we really can't get to the degree that we want to be effective with it. And one of those items is more in-depth research into the voter registration database. I'm currently personally spending about 1/3 to 1/2 my time on that activity. With I'll show you. I've got lists coming in all the time from people with questions about these voters and these voters, and I owe a response to that, but it just takes time to get into all of that, and I think it's only going to increase as we approach the 2024 general election. And I think you guys would agree that it's probably one of the more important things that we do in terms of preparing for the general election, making sure that our voter registration database is as up to date and current and correct as possible. So again, this is work over and above the normal monthly checklist that we get through the Secretary of State's office, driven by the ERIC database and Postal Service change of address database. Just a lot of work. And then the other thing I would really like to have grow and become more robust is our voter accessibility advisory team. And last couple of years, we've really only met with that team on an annual basis, which is what the law requires. But I take this seriously, and that's why I've asked for, when we look at our new county website and things like that, that we really take into consideration accessible voter features or accessibility features in that website. And we want to continue to engage those members of our population to see what else we can do in preparation for 2024 to make voting more accessible to the people who are in that segment of our population. And then with all of that, we talk a lot about voter outreach, but because the team's tapped out, we really struggle to have any type of effective outreach program. I know Kaylee met with one high school earlier this year. I've been working with the tribes to try to find ways to help them get more of the tribal members registered to vote and get them actively voting. And that work's going to continue, but it's something that I think we owe the people of our county probably a more sustained and robust effort. So again, that's those are things that we're doing currently, but we're just not doing them to my satisfaction, or I think to what we really would all feel good about in terms of engaging the public. So back to today's ask. So let's jump to this slide. So again, we're looking for board concurrence to increase the election staff with one full-time elections technician. And again, that person will be dedicated to developing the process and collecting the data regarding the automatic voter registration process that kicks in July. And I also want to enlist their help on going through those lists of questions around registered voters or people who may have moved out of state or people who, for whatever reason, may not be voting, and try to find out why that is. And so that, again, that's the work that I've been investing my own time in. And then again, we want to enlist their help with outreach. And that would not only include schools, but senior care facilities, other civic organizations, and again, help with the tribes. So as far as funding goes for that person, I have been talking to the Secretary of State's office about using some HAVA grant money to cover a portion of it, basically 90 days worth of the effort. And so Stuart Holmes has my request in hand and hope to hear back from him soon, but we want to try to not place all of this on the county budget. We're looking for other ways to cover it. And going forward, if and as this position gets approved for future years, as Marie's pointed out, we should be able to recover or generate some additional revenue from cost sharing with the city of Shelton as it relates to voter registration database maintenance. So then the extra help that I mentioned earlier, the extra part-time help, that will be applied to enhance signature verification processes and also to coverage for the temporary vote center in Belfair. And that money we expect and would normally get reimbursed by the district. So that's not a direct impact to the county budget. Third part of this request goes to the ask to reestablish the Chief Deputy Auditor position. I know last time we talked about this, I took the homework assignment to go work with Neary and HR to get the position description finalized and to get some estimates from HR on what comparable salaries might look like. And we've got that now. And I'll share that with you here in a moment. But basically, what I'm proposing, this is our current organization. And then this is a look at the proposed reorganization, where I would like to appoint Marie Stevenson to be our Chief Deputy Auditor, again, without backfill. She will still continue to work the elections administrator functions of her current job, and then the new position here for the elections technician. Over on the right, this is the work still in progress, again, with the recording and licensing and recording team and the work that we're doing to integrate passport service. And again, just to remind everybody, our commitment when we picked up the passport service from the clerk's office is that we would be able to incorporate it into our current statement of work, integrate it into our current processes without requesting any additional staffing to support that function and make that service available to the county.
Any idea what kind of revenues are going to or are coming from that?
I had an earlier number and quote from Charles, but it's not on the top of my head. I'll have to get back with you on that.
Yeah, that's okay. I'd be curious about what's happening in your office, though, since we do it. That's even if it's a month, 2 months, it's going to take a while for people to even learn it's there. I just was curious if you had a number. Go ahead. Sorry.
We've got the estimate, and I'll get that to you guys. And we're working really hard. The team's working really hard to make that service available starting June 1. At least that's our target. It may be a little bit later than that, but everybody's really looking forward to making that service available. So this is the position description that we worked out with Mary and the HR team. And I won't kill you guys by walking through it. I just want you to know that we have done that homework. And then in terms of the supporting budget amendment request, this is the one that we're proposing for the additional part-time help, an additional $7,000 for the next 2 elections. But again, we expect to get that money recovered from the districts. And then for the full-time equivalent elections technician, those numbers are down here. And again, I'm asking the Secretary of State's office to cover about $9,950 of that amount, roughly a quarter. And then as far as the Chief Deputy Auditor request goes, based on the salary assessment from HR, they're looking for that position to be equivalent to or the same level as the Chief Deputy Clerk. And so in that bracket or that salary range at level 10, if you add up these numbers for the rest of the year, it's about $3,300 to open up opportunity for Marie as our chief deputy auditor. So those are the three things I'm looking for: board concurrence and board approval. I'm sure you guys have more questions though before we pin that.
Okay, are you asking us for questions now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so first she's not on today because she's not feeling well, but I want to thank Mary for all her hard work on this stuff. She's done a lot of work and HR has, and they do such a great job. So thank you, even with her not on here, for all of that. I've seen the job descriptions and I just appreciate all that extra work. And I want to say, Steve, I like this a lot better than our original conversations about it. I think you've went through the process in a way that shows that you've been doing this for a while now. So it definitely is a very good reorg request and very informational. You provided the stuff that I asked for each time so I can make a decision on this. With that being said, I just want to clarify a few little things. So you're believing that you're going to be able to get some of the monies from the Secretary of State for reimbursements. You're thinking about 10,000, you said, on the employee.
Yes.
You
And
think
that we are looking to use HAVA grant money for, because our next or the remaining two elections for this year are both federal elections and eligible for use of that funding.
okay? And you believe you can get reimbursements on the extra help line of 7,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The structure for creating that position on the upper has already been gone through Mary, and the pay amounts is under her recommendation of where to put it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And so what I've modeled here is the I think it's step 10 within that job, or within that salary classification or that salary bracket. And the net result is like around $3,300.
And we don't know what the total impact is going to be, but we can pretty much guess that that original impact is going to be probably more than 3,000 per year in individual touches that you're going to have with the new law, right? That was my number, but Marie was saying that she thinks that's an underestimate.
You're talking about the number of packets, or the number of
touches you're going to have because of the new DOL.
The voter registration activity. We'll see if it's around 3,000, but time will tell.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions that I had. I'm supportive. Commissioners, anybody else?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions for you, Mr. Auditor. Thanks for the presentation this morning. Just to confirm, I think the request says that the numbers for the elections tech position are through December of 23 at that 39,692. Just want to make sure that it's actually for the remainder of 24 and that those numbers are still accurate based on 24's pay ranges.
The answer is yes and yes. So the baseline ask is for July 1 through December 31, 2024.
Perfect. Yeah, so I am supportive of both the additional extra help in the elections tech position, and I think my preference would be to revisit the larger reorg during our regular budget process.
Commissioner Trask.
Yeah, question for you. The HAVA grant, does that renew every year, or how is that funded, and how do we know that we're guaranteed that money will not go away?
Well, we're not guaranteed. So the HAVA grant money expires September 30 of this year. So we want to use 90 days of that budget the first 3 months where we have this this additional employee on staff to cover the activity as appropriate for voter registration database updating and research with that HAVA grant money. So at this point, there's no I'm not aware of any plans that will extend that grant beyond September 30, 2024, but we've got a window of opportunity where we can use some of it to help get this position off the ground.
Okay, yeah, and I know I've stated in the past that I do think that we need more people in elections. Marie and the other two work their tails off. And so I know that they could absolutely use new or additional help, especially this year during elections. As far as the reorg goes, I would rather visit that during budget talks. I think that's
So
the appropriate time for that or for that discussion. But as far as the elections, folks, I do support that 100%.
Before you jump in, Steve, I need clarification for myself so I can understand. So the two commissioners are both agreeing on basically the reorg, but without just the top person being reorged. But what they brought forward for reorg is you got to put the people in the different locations. Is that what I'm understanding? So all three of us agree on that part of it, that
I agree with the extra help. And then a
elections tech,
and so sorry, what was that?
an elections tech.
And an elections tech so far.
Commissioner Schutte, is that what I heard you say as well?
Yeah, correct. And then also on the passport thing, I mean, you're moving forward with that. There's some regulatory and security things that need to happen at the federal level on that. And so you know, that'll happen in due time. And I believe I was under the impression that when this was pitched over to us taking this work on from the clerk's office, that it was going to be revenue or budget neutral. And so I think I'm willing to let that play itself out as you go through the approval process with the federal government, and then revisit that when you have a little bit more information.
And we have our approvals, Commissioner Schutte. We're qualified and certified and ready to
Great.
look.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
On a clarification for that, Commissioner Schutte, so when you're saying budget neutral, are you thinking that, the revenue in versus generated from it versus the cost for doing it or are you thinking that we bring in extra revenue and there should be no extra costs involved?
Correct. Yeah, revenue neutral. Not a
Okay, so right now it looks like we have agreement to put it on the agenda for bringing on those two positions. I myself, one more time, I understand what you're saying about waiting until the budget time, and I can go along with that, but it does make sense to me that there's a $3,000 increase if we went ahead. I think the elected definitely knows what they need, and it's definitely not a big expenditure difference. So I would like to see us also move forward with the last part because that makes this whole proposal effective. And this way, when we bring staff on, we have them also underneath a specific work group.
Hey, Steve, could I ask you to stop sharing your screen?
Oh, sure. Sorry.
It's hard for us to see faces.
I thought you could see my face. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, but you can't see everybody else's face. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm still in the same position that I mean, the elections this year is such a big issue. We've got so many changes that are coming to our budget that I would rather see this as a whole and not every elected would love to have a new more people. Because we could all use more people, including in support services. So I would rather have that be a budget discussion.
Okay.
when it comes to that.
Okay. Are you still in the same position as well? I just had to ask because.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I appreciate you asking that.
So, Steve, please bring forward those two. We'll ask staff to put that on the agenda for the creation of those, the more money into extra help and the creation of that elections tech position.
Okay,
And we will relook at this during budget discussions on the final part of your reorganization.
okay.
And appointment of a elections deputy director.
So, Mr. Chair, I just see one
Yeah.
other question for us, I guess, is on the budget amendment side. Are we? I'm pretty sure we're already moving forward with the mid-year correction. So, is this something that we would have to pick up in December? Is that your understanding, commissioners?
My understanding is that it'll come up as the next, not this one we're looking at, but the next one afterwards, because we need time to go through that process. But I believe that within their budget, they have the ability to withstand this until that time.
I agree with that. I just wanted to make sure we were aligned on that part of it on the budget side.
Commissioner Trask, do you agree with that?
Yeah, that'll work. I want to make sure that Jen and Leo are and Mary are a part of this conversation as well, because they're our SMEs, correct? So I want to make sure that they're part of that this conversation. It's too bad that Mary is sick today, but because I'd love to have her input on this as well.
But on the other aspect, on when it's placed on, when it is handled through the budget, it'll not be in the one that we're just about to do, but in the next one afterwards for the attention to the budget. The position we would put on, now, but the actual budget amendment would be at the next one. Jennifer just popped on. Hi, Jennifer.
I would just recommend putting it in the December amendment.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Commissioner Schutte said that's where he's at. Do you agree with that, Commissioner Trask?
Yep.
Okay. So that's what we're asking. Staff, please put forward the creation of the positions. And the verbiage to allow for Steve to at least be able to expend more in that other line item for extra help. And then we'll bring back the reorg as a whole with that position during budget discussions. We're all on the same page? Okay. All right. Anything else for us, Steve?
I just want to ask a clarifying question of Commissioners Schutte and Trask. So looking ahead to revisiting this through the budget discussions, is there any other additional information or insights or anything that you would like to know or have answered or addressed for that time that we didn't or weren't able to cover today?
I think for me, I'm looking forward to seeing how many people actually use the passports. The new function there, and then and as far as reorgs, I think it's typical that's what we do during budget talks.
Sure.
But as far as information goes, no, I don't think so. Marie always makes herself very available for questions also, and then we'll have Mary as well.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure I'm answering the mail.
Well, let's make sure Commissioner Schutte doesn't, because you asked that question of both of them. Commissioner Schutte, is there any other information you would like to see to help you when it comes time for deliberating the reorg, that last piece?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's just all about resource allocation and prioritizing. And so for the conversation today, my priority was getting that additional line level support in the election side of things, and just trying to keep the big picture in mind when we make these decisions, and weighting that line level versus upper level management, those decisions. And so I don't necessarily know that it comes down to needing one piece of information or whatever to get across the finish line here. I think it's just a matter of taking a look at the organization as a whole and kind of where the biggest needs are. And for the purpose of this discussion today, I thought the bigger need was focusing on that line level staff so that you have what you need to be successful in the 2024 elections.
Does that answer your question, Steve?
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate
Now,
it.
before we let you go, Mark, you showed your face. Commissioners, are you okay with, bringing him in on this conversation if he wants? For the auditor's office? Yes. Mark, did you have something you wanted to add? Please unmute yourself and tell us what you got.
Oh, no, nope. I was just getting ready for Public Works. I was,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
You were showing your face early. All
No,
right.
sorry. Yep.
That's okay. Anything else for Steve?
Me.
Hearing none. Steve, anything left for us?
Not at this time. Thanks again for the time this morning. I really appreciate it. You guys take care.
Bye, guys. Okay, next up, we have Loretta with Public Works.
Morning.
Good morning, Loretta.
We have one item this morning and Richard prepared this, but unfortunately he is out sick today. So here I am. We are here to share with commissioners that we made an emergency purchase for the Belfair wastewater facility. And the purchase was in the amount of $184,022. And that is for a contract with, well, actually two contracts, one with Taurus Electrical and one with Kubota to repair and replace the SCADA system at the Belfair wastewater facility. And commissioners, you may recall, I think back in January, we gave you a heads up that this was going to occur. We had a severe freeze and it damaged the wastewater facility. And we are now in the process of implementing the repairs. And per our county purchasing policy and also per RCW, we are to notify and document in writing so the auditors can find this, that we've made this emergency purchase.
So I see here that it's saying that we expect reimbursement from FEMA on this.
Well, the primary reimbursement, Commissioner Netherland, will be from our insurance coverage, and Richard has been working with Nicole right out of the gate on this. And then we also recently received notice from FEMA that we met the thresholds for the emergency declaration. And so our deductible, we expect will be paid for through the FEMA funding.
Okay. Jennifer, I hate to pull you into this, but we had some discussions during Jennifer Byerly, by the way. We had some discussions during ARPA on this particular issue. Is this one of them we agreed to do something with, or did we put that to the side?
I believe we did award, I think it was 50,000 for the SCADA to Belfair, if I remember right. Do you remember that, Loretta?
We did, and then Mark and I had a follow-up conversation. When we first put this in as a application, we were not certain that we would receive the FEMA reimbursement or even to the extent of reimbursement on our insurance. So we put it as kind of a stopgap, but I would feel safe and comfortable if commissioners wanted to reallocate that 50,000 of ARPA and not apply it here.
I'm glad I asked that. So commissioners, are you comfortable with putting it into that top line that would be used for internals? Do you remember during our conversation, we had a top line item that we put in the rest of the funds? Or Commissioner Trask actually, we put the rest of the funds that we had left up on the top that would be for internal allocations. Are you comfortable with doing that with this 50,000 and taking it out of the allocations to Public Works?
I am. Jen, was that was the 92,000, right?
Correct. It was. And then we did have the treasurer had a couple of property tax reimbursements that she did. So we would take that amount off of there as well.
Okay. So you're comfortable with that, Sharon?
Yep.
I am as well. Sorry about that. I just knew that was dangling out there when I read this. So at least we got that put away. Go ahead, Loretta.
That's all I have on this, commissioners, unless you have any questions about the project itself.
Commissioners, any questions for the project? Nope. Oh,
Me.
okay.
Up to me.
Nope. What else do you have for us, Loretta?
Oh, that's it. Other than a quick thank you also to TJ and the IT team. They've been very helpful in coordinating this work as well.
Okay. Just to catch up on I'd like to get an update somewhere on those lighting at Victor and Wheelwright at some point. And that's all I can think of right off the top of my head. Oh, I would love for us commissioners, with your approval, I'd love to get an actual update on where we're at on the RID for Razor Road. I know that we have an expectation that we can do something by the end of the year, but it seems like in the middle is a good time to have a good update at the very minimum. Are you comfortable with that? I see one, Commissioner Shooty. Yep. So yeah, please put something together for us.
Okay.
And I'd be willing to come out there and talk to you too, and just take a look at where you're at now. I know you got a lot on your plate, but if we just let it sit, we'll forget.
Oh, it's not forgotten and it's not sitting.
Okay.
But yes, happy to provide an update.
Do you guys have anything for Loretta? All right. All right. Thank you, Loretta.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, I have support services. Mark.
Thank you, sir. So jumping to our list, looks like Jen has amendments for 2024 budget.
Yeah, I'll share my screen so you can see them. So here's the updated budget amendment attachments. Oh, I'll move it to this one. This one's a little more clean. This is the roll up by fund and department for each of the amendment requests. So we have in the general fund $770,821 that we're asking to add to expenditures. With that comes $787,043 in revenue.
Okay.
And in the special funds, the other funds, we have expenditure asks of $2,556,884 and revenue, offsetting revenue in those special funds, $1,942,995. And
what are the biggest on that? That's $600,000. The other one we move forward 10 grand up, but this is 600,000. What is the big culprits? One more time.
So, I mean, the biggest thing really is the cash balances are changed to actuals, and some of those funds don't have an ending fund balance, and so it looks like it comes out of expenditures. ARPA is a good example. So I think it was about 250,000 for ARPA. Fund 155, 202,000. So
Okay.
The actual cash balance was that much less. So we removed that out of the expenditures.
Okay, I got you. Nope, that makes sense, and I can see it here on mine. I just you get so used to looking up at the screen, you forget that sometimes I have it in the book down here.
Yeah, there was lodging tax, 645,000. Somehow I missed putting that into the budget, all of the contracts that we had. So that one's a big one that, gets moved out of ending fund balance and into the expenditure line items just to correct that fund. So that was probably the biggest. The other ones have offsetting revenue like welfare, sewer, community services, health. They always, or generally always, have a budget amendment.
But even still, for the public, just to know, this is the special funds. This is not the general fund. So even that difference isn't going to have the same effect. Thank you, Jennifer. That's good. What you got?
You're welcome. That was all I had on that. The next thing that I have is the motor pool, the annual review and the rates. So we'll start off with, I'm going to do a new share. This is the motor pool rates for all of our funds or departments and health department other than the sheriff's office. So for 2025, we are projecting that rates will be about $377,000. And we're looking at rotating out vehicles on a 7-year cycle. And we're getting to the point where we have completed leases after 4 years. So we had, all of our leases are on a 4-year cycle.
Yep.
So we will complete those leases, rent them for an additional 3 years, and then plan on cycling them out, start selling them off. So, so for next year, we are asking to replace 3 vehicles in in departments. Right now we're projecting, and these might not be exactly where we're going to place them, but for now we're looking at health, one for health, environmental, one for DCD, and one for the assessor's office. And then we are also asking for 2 additional vehicles for, these would be new vehicles for personal health that are grant funded. And these would be a one-time purchase and not put on that lease cycle. So you can see I just put them on like a term of 1. And then I put their capital fees under the capital upfit fees so that it shows here how much the total would be. So that's why that looks a little bit different. But we have last year's 2024 motor pool rates were 326,000. If we remove those 2 vehicles, I mean, we're actually paying less in 2025 than we would have in 24 before adding those 2 vehicles. So so that's our first part of this whole presentation.
Can you go up, please, to, you were showing a sold vehicle credit. Could you explain that to me?
Yeah, so when we sell the vehicles, the sold vehicle credit, we don't get a check for those vehicles. We apply the proceeds to our current leases. And so what I do is I look and see, you know, where the best bang for our buck is going to be for us to apply those credits, where we're going to save the most in interest. And so these are vehicles that we own. They're not going to be worth as much, but when we get to be selling the leased vehicles, those are going to be worth a little bit more. So I'm projecting about 10,000. So you know, once we get on that 7-year cycle, they're going to be worth a little bit more than the ones that we owned and hung on to forever.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions on this before we move on to the sheriff's rates? Commissioner
Shooty or Trask? I'm seeing head nods. Go ahead.
I had a quick question for you, Jen.
Sure.
On that health department vehicle, the one that Dave is gonna get grant funded for, and Dave's on here. Maybe he could talk about it a little bit, but I think that we had talked about it. It's kind of a unique vehicle. It's kind of a mobile health van, wasn't it?
Yeah, so on this particular one, I think that we kind of jumped the gun on the 150 cargo van, because I'm looking at it something that's quite a bit larger than that. Basically, it's a mobile clinic van. The Ford Escape, yes, but I'm thinking that as I look at this kind of got past me, I think. The one I'm looking at is going to be $400,000 to put a mobile unit out there.
But will it still be money in, money out? That's the question.
Yes. Yeah, we've got some money, and I've got more coming, more that I'm looking at that could be applied to this.
Are you seeing any scenario where it's going to be more than what you are able to provide with money coming in?
Well, that will be the upper limit of the RFP. When we go out for an RFP for these vehicles, that will set the upper limit. It's what we have in the bank.
And so what you have in the bank is going to be your upper limit.
Yeah.
So it will be controlled. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioners, do you have anything to say about that, or any thoughts on it?
Yeah, just real quick, Dave, what's your kind of like timeline on that?
So when we order this, if we order a new one, it'll take 1.5 years to get here.
Okay.
Should we just take it out of next year's rates then, or
So
should we leave it in just in case it comes in 25, or just add it as an amendment if it comes in 25, if the commissioners agree to order that?
Is that a question to us or for Dave? Sound like it was a question to Dave. That's the best.
I couldn't hear the question, so.
So are you suggesting that we take the vehicle out of the 2025 rates completely?
Yeah, I would take the cargo van out, leave the Escape in.
Commissioners, are you okay with that?
I am Commissioner Shooty. I can see your face. I can't see Sharon. So is that a yes for you, Commissioner Shooty?
Yeah, if we're not buying it, I wouldn't put it in there now.
Same for you, Commissioner Trask.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, I think it's exciting too, though. I mean, for people to see that Mason County is, I guess, transitioning. We're growing.
Yeah,
Duties
the,
are getting-
yeah, the
duties
idea
are
of
getting
this
larger.
vehicle would be a treatment room, a room where we can do blood draws for hepatitis C testing, HIV testing, wound treatment, and then like a room for doing all those other things, you know, blood pressure checks and all that stuff about getting public health out into the community. So
Have you already sold the other one?
no, we still have our old RV. Yeah, and that'll have to keep working until we get the new vehicle online.
Any idea when that one's going up? Oh, a year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. In fact, I just put money into the front end, some wheels, tires, that kind of stuff to keep it on the road.
Okay. Jennifer, is there any more that you need from us on this issue?
So the escape, are you okay with, are you okay with leaving the escape on there, the Ford Escape? As a
Yes.
grant vehicle, and
That's
Dave-
what he said, yeah. He
Okay.
said, leave the escape, take the other off.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to share the sheriff's office rates. And we did have a couple of minor changes on here since it got put into your packet. I had the wrong number in the capital upfit fees for one of our new replacement vehicles, so I changed that. And then the SWAT truck that we're asking to replace, I had it in as an F-150 and it should be an F-350, which you know, that's a little bit higher rate, so I changed that. The overall result is a couple $1,000s less than what I have in your packets. And
Okay.
so the total rate for the sheriff's office is just under 1.74 million for 2025. And we are asking to replace 7 PPV units and then 4 white fleet vehicle units for them. And last year's rate was, or 2024, so this year's rate is 1,610,000 roughly. So the difference is about 130,000. So
Hey,
yeah.
Jen, we're still seeing the,
Oh, sorry.
that's
Yeah,
okay.
I'm sure. I just went
I mean, I see it on my screen, but
Yeah, in the packet, there's a,
yeah.
So while she's looking, I have a question for the commission on how you want to handle this next, but we don't usually do executive sessions at the end. Would you like to adjourn explaining that the executive session will be for this specific amount of time and that there will be no action? Or would you like to go into executive session, come back and adjourn afterwards?
I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we have to come back and adjourn. And that way people know exactly how long we've spent in the executive session.
That is preferred, but I know that you can do the other, but it is preferred. Because it can end, the meeting can end as long as there's no action and you have a set point where it has to end at that point. But I'm comfortable coming back in, so we'll leave when we do, we will leave this open and leave the meeting open and come back after the executive session and close the meeting, please.
Yes.
So no matter what, we need to make sure we have at least two of us that show up for that. Okay, go ahead and continue, Jennifer.
Okay, sorry about that. It was on my other screen, so anyway, I was having trouble finding the share. But anyway, the total rate is about 1.7 million, just under 1.7 for 2025. For 24, it was just under 1.609 or 1.610. So the difference is about 130,000. We are asking to replace the SWAT truck, the F-350, it's an F-350, and it has a large upfit, and so I wanted to, point that out, that it's this won't be on the 7-year cycle. This would be on a much longer cycle, but it does need, the one that we have needs to be replaced. It's gotten old and it's time. So
you have an annual rate of 65,000 on that one. Is that expected each year or this year because of the upfit?
Yeah, the upfit is a one-time thing. So the annual would be about 19,000.
Okay, all right, I'm comfortable with that.
Jen, what is this replacing? How is this different than the Teradyne that we bought with ARPA money?
I am not sure, but I think that Chief Dracaby is on, and I'll ask him to speak to that.
Hey,
Chief,
Commissioners, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is going to replace a old van that we picked up from Lacey PD probably 10 or 15 years ago. It's a 2001 van, box van that's been leaking, having more problems. It's time to replace it with something newer, more reliable, and something that'll last us at least 10 to 15 years.
And it actually hauls people more than people and equipment, right, Jason? I mean, you talked about that in our meeting.
Yeah, it's a crew cab, so it's designed to haul a couple of folks in there, well, up to 4 or 5 folks, but it's going to haul most of the gear that they use that helps them work the issues.
Chief, was this old one a regularly used piece of equipment or something that was used once a month or once every 2 months?
We used it quite frequently. We got a lot of miles, no pun intended, out of it. It was, I think we picked it up for $1 from Lacey PD.
Yeah. But if it's something that is needed still and you actually have a regular use for it, it's not a specialty thing. I'm supportive. Commissioner Trask, how do you feel about it?
Oh, yeah. Got to make sure that we can provide services that are needed. So, yep.
Commissioner Sheedy?
Yeah, no, just wanted some clarification and she provided that, so thank you.
Okay. All right, Jeff, what else you got?
Okay, so now I have the comparison of ER&R and motor pool. So I'll start a new share with that. Okay, can you all see that? The Mason County non-PPV?
No, we're just seeing your folder.
Oh, okay. I have about 1 million things open right now. Okay, how about now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so every year I go in and plug in the actuals. So now through 2023, we have the actuals that we spent through enterprise or on our motor pool, mainly through enterprise plugged in. And with white fleet vehicles, we have saved in 23 approximately $70,000. It looks like. I mean, it gets harder and harder to compare because you know, the further out we get, we have to apply an inflator onto ER&R and then future motor pool costs to see where we're actually going. It looks like over a 10-year period, we're saving about $700,000 on white fleet vehicles. In our white fleet, we have at this point in time 69 vehicles as of May 1st. For PPVs, or the police pursuit vehicles, it looks like we are saving approximately 1.2 million over the 10-year period for 2023. There's about a savings of 250,000, it looks like, when we compare to ER&R. And so overall, you know, we're at over a 10-year period, just under $2 million in savings. Mainly that's coming from overhead costs. Since we don't have the overhead costs through enterprise, we're able to purchase more vehicles, rotate them out. So that's really, you know, something that is hard to put a price on.
Deborah, I'm going to jump in for a second. Commissioner Schutte was here at the time. This proves, if you remember, we had some great battles at the time when all this was happening. We knew that the numbers were different, and we had some great arguments over some of this stuff. We were spending more money to keep our officers and deputies in vehicles that had 200,000 miles on it. And we're in no shape to be doing it. And we had these battles, and we were given numbers that showed that this wouldn't happen, that it would be the opposite, that the cost would go up. So just a little pat on the back. We definitely have protected our deputies so much more, and we saved money in the process. Although that was a bad battle, it was worth every minute of that battle for this. I just wanted to say that. You may remember that, Commissioner Schutte. You remember those days?
Vividly.
Yeah. It was bad. So I'm so happy. It was one of the best things we ever did, and the safety that we provided for our officers is night and day. Not to mention, we no longer have people on the white fleet driving a 1990 Corsica. That was a real
with
thing.
mold on the windows. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what we would have done through the pandemic with you know, the vehicle shortage. I mean, we were able to get some of the new vehicles that we ordered, but I mean, we're still waiting on some to come in for 24. So yeah, I don't know what we would have done without that program through that time period. So
yeah. Well, it was very controversial, but it was the right decision, and
Oh,
it shows it.
I was here during that.
Oh, were you here?
First
Sorry
as
about
well.
that.
Yeah, that's okay.
But yeah, so you remember that was pretty interesting, wasn't it? The different
Yeah,
stuff we were being shown, and look at this. It is wonderful.
and in these rates, we do have for PPVs a projected replace a wrecked or out of service vehicle for an unplanned, you know, wrecked vehicle. We have one every year that we kind of plan on. And we did have one that got wrecked recently that does need to be replaced. And so I think that lease was up in 2026. So we have to buy out that lease and then, you know, order that replacement vehicle. So the vehicle is still in the rates. I believe we'll be able to reuse a lot of the upfit items. So it won't be the big upfit, but that one, you know, will need to be ordered. But again, it's built into our plan. I don't have like a wrecked vehicle built into our rates because we just assume we'll add it into a budget amendment later if that happens. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
I'm curious, when you built this structure you just did you add into it the inflationary rate that we would have had using the old system?
So what I do is I use the Bremerton CPIU every year for future costs. So so this year it was 4.4%.
Uh-huh.
And in
Did you use it for past costs? Is what I mean in comparison to what it would have been?
Yeah, so we took ER&R's 2018 and 2019 actuals, our actual costs,
Uh-huh.
and then put that inflator on there
Okay.
to hopefully get them up to a more current rate. And then I put the same inflator on our future costs for enterprise, so that we're kind of comparing apples to apples. I mean, it's really difficult to do that.
No, you did great. I think it is apples to apples. That was my question. I appreciate it very much, Jennifer. You did great.
No problem. Thank you. And here's an overview of our fleet, where we're at right now as of May 1st. So we have 49 PPVs. We added the one for the new position in the budget, and then we had some motor pool movement for White Fleet. We've added a total of 3 vehicles this year, including that PPV. So our total fleet count is 118 vehicles. And now with the new health vehicle, we'll be at 119. So, so what we're asking for in this presentation is to so we're asking to have you review the 10-year cost comparison of ER&R and motor pool and approval to proceed with the county administrator signing for the order of 7 replacement White Fleet vehicles and 7 replacement police pursuit vehicles, and along with the order of the new vehicle for health.
I 100% agree. Commissioner Schutte?
I do as well.
Commissioner Trask?
Yep, me too.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, then the last thing that I have is just a contract amendment change with PUD1 for ARPA for the, this was for the Viewcrest Phase 3. They're projecting, they have a contractor in place and they're projecting that the contract is going to be done September 30th or by September 30th. So we're just asking to amend this contract to have it end September 30th instead of June 30th.
Commissioner Trask, I waited until you coughed to do that. Are you okay with it?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Schutte?
I am as well.
I am as well, Jennifer.
Great, thank you very much. That's all I have today.
All right, Mark, what else you got?
That was all we had, I believe.
Well, that special thank you to Jennifer. I so appreciate you. I just got to tell you, I know you were around for a lot of that stuff, and look what's happening. Just thank you. You're wonderful to work with. You're very good at what you do, and I don't know, you're pretty spectacular. And I think we all agree on that one.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Well, there's a lot of work that goes into managing the motor pool, and there's a lot of things that are beneficial there's really not a dollar value associated with it. Jen touched on a couple of them, but Enterprise has been great to work with, and I feel like if we didn't have them in our corner, I think we'd be having more difficulty in getting some of the vehicles that we need now. So I'm excited about continuing this forward. I am a little concerned about continuing to forecast out what our savings is based on assumptions, because obviously as we continue to move on, those numbers it's harder for us to justify those numbers as we move forward. So I feel like it's definitely the right decision. It is a ton of work. Both Jen and Kelly Frazier and Drac do a great job of managing the entire fleet. So appreciate the work that they do.
Again, Mark, you know how I work in blocks, especially with numbers. Literally, we can remove all that savings, all of it, probably even double compared to what was being proposed to us, and still be in better shape than what we were told. And still, we have actual vehicles that aren't with 200,000 miles with law enforcement going through there and hoping they're going to be able to get to the call and not break down.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's a win-win-win. And I want to remind the public, this was new when this happened. This was not accidental. We worked it and we begged it, trying to get it and tried to get to be the guinea pigs to try and make this happen. We were denied for years because they didn't want to take on pursuit vehicles. We were denied for years, way when Frank was here, and we were asking for it so long ago, I don't remember. But no, there's no way we're worse off today by doing it. Just even if everything Jen had for extra disappeared, we're still way ahead.
That's great.
All right, what else you got for us, Mark?
That's it.
Okay, does anybody have anything for Mark? All right, then we're going to go ahead and, if I understood correctly, we're going to go ahead and go into an executive session.
Commissioner?
Executive session RCW 42.30.1101A double I. It's information regarding infrastructure and security of computer and telecommunication networks, security and service recovery plans. Do we have an hour? Do we have a time mark that we can give the public?
Yes, it will be about an hour. But I think that there's a couple of commissioner discussion items you might want to talk about before you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Who had it?
Commissioner Trask, I think you're listed first.
Yeah. No, there is let me get to it real quick. Older Americans Month proclamation, and we have a person, a beautiful lady that would love to come and read this proclamation to us at our next meeting. So it's the Older Americans Month.
Is this with the Agency on Aging group?
It is. Yep.
Yeah, I'm supportive.
Okay. What else you got?
So, one item for me. So last week, Mark, Kel, and I had a conversation with PD1 about seeing if we were interested in joining them on a Water Smart grant. They have a number of projects that are in there that they're doing. One of them is a large-scale water modeling project that they're going to do or considering doing. That would essentially be a extension of the work that Dave did last year on a select part of Raya 14's basin. And so they asked if we would be interested in going in on it with them. The total ask of the grant, Mark, I think is $1.4 million. I think our contribution would be somewhere around $150,000 as a match that would only kick in if they were successful in receiving the federal funding to do these parts of it. And so it's not due until June, but they wanted a head nod from us that we would be interested in potentially participating so that they could work on essentially a scope of work this week with their grant writing team. And so I said that I would bring it in front of the commission. And I don't know, Mark, if you have additional information that you wanted to add.
No, I think he wrapped it up pretty good.
So for myself, I have no issue with the head nod, but I'd sure like to find out and have Dave actually be the one that brings that forward. But I'd also like to ask the one question. If we do this, is there any risks that we will limit our own abilities by knowledge sometimes works in two directions? So I'd like to see that we're safe with that type of request.
Yeah, so I'll say two things. One, I think there is always that potential. There was certainly that potential when we did it last year. And then the other part is Dave and Ian didn't participate in this. They felt that it was more appropriate for Kel and her team to participate in it. This meeting did happen after the deadline to submit information for our packet. And so that's why I'm bringing it up now. Otherwise, it would be in their opinion, a DCD thing.
Okay, and why DCD? What will it accomplish when it's done?
So it's just.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go for it.
So I think that the issue is environmental health actually handles the sewer side of things. And, oh, there's Dave. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. At this point, the RIO work has become it's planning oriented. You know, it's water use across a basin, not individual wells, not individual parcels, which is where EH would get involved. I'd be glad to go to share what I've learned over the last 5 years. But this is something that certainly we've talked about transitioning this RIO work over to DCD.
So where's the benefit to the county for doing this for if we expended 150,000? How would we benefit as a county?
Well, I think a couple of things. One, you get an idea of where, well, as we found with Johnson and Goldsboro Creek, we did a really good analysis of where the buildable parcels were and did a projection of where build outs can happen. Secondly, if we can keep from going into litigation, you know, down the road by having these studies done, that's a benefit as well.
Okay, well, I'll stand with you, Commissioner Shooty.
Yeah, so I think at this point, it's just we want to see what that scope of work looks like, and so I think if we can, you know, get that, that might help us understand a little bit better. So if there's consensus on the commission, I think Mark, Kel, and I can go back and at least have that part of the conversation, and then ultimately we can decide in June whether or not we want to pursue it further.
Commissioner Trash, do we have a consensus?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I remember back that it was a DCD thing and not a health thing. We just left it under Dave during the transition.
It was he was closing out the MOU with Squawks
Right.
and Tribe, and so yep.
Right.
Okay, what else do we got?
I think there's an item on there for calendar updates for the commissioners. You guys have any calendar updates before we go into executive session?
Let me take a look.
I'll be at Alderbrook Wednesday through Friday for a WASAC board meeting and LSC meetings.
Yeah, I think everything is as I noticed last week.
Yep.
Which is a rarity and a nice thing.
Okay, so it is 11:15 right now. We will return back at 12:15. Moving into that executive session at RCW 42.30.1101A II. All right, with that being said, I'll see everybody on the other side and we'll come back, and we do not expect any action on that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, expecting no action. See everybody at 12:15.